Hello, reporter room friends. Welcome. I'm so happy that you've come by to spend a little bit of time with me. Today, we're going to be talking about the mysterious disappearance of Jack and Lilly. Let me grab this so I can pull up pictures of them, because, of course, the whole point of doing this is to find Jack and Lilly. So let me put this up.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
And if you haven't subscribed, please do. It's free and it helps me out a lot. So I'm going to move myself right here so we can see. This is Lilly. She's 6 years old. This is Jack. He is 4 years old. And they disappeared from their Lansdowne home in Nova Scotia, Canada. So today we're going to be talking about the mysterious disappearance of Jack and Lilly Sullivan, their biological family response to their disappearance, a purported possible great aunt, but also possibly somebody perpetrating a hoax, and some updates on stepfather Daniel. So come on in, tell me where you are from. And my name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, it's free and it helps me out a lot. So please consider subscribing. I cannot get to 50,000 subscribers without like, share, leave a comment, and know that everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion, and opinions are not facts. So come on in and tell me where you're from. Let's get started on the mysterious disappearance of Jack and Lilly. So for those of you, I'm just going to give a very brief overview. Jack and Lilly disappeared from Lansdowne Station, which is a small town in Nova Scotia, Canada. Jack is 4 years old and Lilly is 6 years old. It is unusual. It is very unusual to have two children disappear together unless they wandered away. But it's very unusual to have two children disappear together and be abducted. Statistically, it's a very low probability that they would have been abducted by a stranger both together. Not impossible, but low. So I think authorities at first thought that the two had wandered away, but after conducting a thorough search, they have not been able to find any sign of Jack and Lilly. They even began collecting trail cameras last week from neighbors. So let's talk about the biological family's response to the disappearance of Jack and Lilly. And then we're going to talk about their great aunt Daphne. Is this real or is this a hoax? And we're going to talk about some updates from about the stepfather Daniel. So let's start with the biological family. The biological father, so Daniel is the stepfather. The biological father was being purported by some people that he was in jail, but we have learned that he is not in jail. He was arrested, but it appears he is out, and he does not seem to be involved in either Jack or Lily's lives. Now, some people have purported that this, is they're attributing comments to great aunt Daphne, but I have some skepticism about this. Great aunt Daphne, I'm not saying she is or isn't. I'm just going to tell you what I think about this in just a second, so please stay with me. But I have a problem with the fact that even though he's not that involved with the kids, that we haven't heard from him. He hasn't appealed to any potential abductors to find the kids. He hasn't been out searching. I think it's really sad that these two beautiful young people didn't have a man in their life that, I think if he truly cared, he would be out helping to search. But he's not, at least not that we've heard. So this pretty much tells us what we probably need to know about this particular father. This doesn't mean he was involved in their disappearance. I don't know if law enforcement has interviewed him or not, but for sure, he doesn't seem to be interested in appealing on camera for their safe return. He hasn't done that. He hasn't searched that we know about, but he also has not been arrested for their disappearance. So let's talk about great aunt Daphne. We've seen lots of content being made and attributed to her comments. Okay. Is great aunt Daphne real or is it a hoax? Well, let me just say she is a real account on Facebook, but I could not find any proof. And let me just pull this up because I think this is relevant. I could not find any proof that showed that she was their great aunt. Doesn't mean she isn't. I couldn't find any proof that she actually made the comment that's being attributed to her. So I think we just need to be, on the lookout for hoaxers, because we know that people that like to hoax do insert themselves into cases like this. And I am not impugning any YouTuber that may have found some other way to connect this back, or maybe reached out to her and got a confirmation that she is the great aunt. I just wasn't able to find anything. I'm not even going to show her account. They found the account that's in the face that's being purported to be great Aunt Daphne, and I'm not showing it on the air because I couldn't find one single thing in her post since the kids disappeared where she's appealing for the return of the kids or anything to do with the kids. So let's just be on the lookout of the hoaxers. So what kind of hoaxers, and again, I'm not saying that somebody did this, but I've been hoaxed before. Somebody, I'm not going to name who, during the Brian Kohberger case when it was new, changed the metadata. I didn't even know you could do this in a newspaper article to make it look like a scream had been reported, and then doctored audio footage. This is why I'm skeptical about the audio footage in the Brian Kohberger case, that the 911 call, that people are hearing things. It's very easy to add things. And I spend a lot of time with the 911 call because I did edit it with photographs and images, and I didn't hear anything of what people are saying that they heard. So I just want to talk about hoaxers, so that my source on this is Psychology Today. So why do people do stuff like this? And what a hoax is basically is a deliberately fabricated falsehood made to masquerade as truth, and it's indistinguishable from errors in observation or judgment or rumors, urban legends, pseudosciences, or April Fool's Day events that are passed along in good faith by believers, or not in good faith, but in bad faith as jokes. So sometimes it can be a person or a group of people who, for reasons just wanting attention or greed, will put out something. And this weekend was such a great time to put out a hoax, right? Because it's a holiday weekend, and so it would have been a good time without a lot of breaking news. So it would have been a good time to try to trick people. And again, I'm not saying that this is what happened in this case. I don't know. I could find her account. That account exists, of the great Aunt Daphne. I'm not saying her last name, but I couldn't find any comments that she made. I couldn't find any links that took me back to the comments. All I could find was a screenshot of someone, of her claiming that she's the great aunt. And I couldn't find the comment, just independent of the screenshot on Facebook. It doesn't mean it's not there. It just means I could not find it. So I'm suspicious. So people can be, have various motives. Some people might be overly helpful. They have some information and they can embellish it. Others can be just malicious and are, fanaticists, anxious to help or associate themselves with events. We like to call them attention-seeking behaviors. They may be people who feel like they don't have a lot of impact in the world, and this is one thing that they can do. They are, they're not literally setting fires, but they, throw out nonsense and then watch back as people report it out as fact. And, they get a duping delight from this. We know that people who are sociopathic and psychopathic like to play games. And again, I'm not saying that great Aunt Daphne is a hoax. I just couldn't find one single photo on her profile of Lilly or Jack or the parents. She's purported to be related to the father. I couldn't find, anything that she was even appealing for Jack and Lily's return on her page. So I think somebody found somebody with a last name of Sullivan, possibly, and just decided they would put something in her name and see how many people would run with it. But so, what kind of people do this is people who usually don't feel like they have any power, and it makes them feel like they can influence events. So they'll, they're attention seeking. They'll do anything for a little bit of attention. So I just wanted to put that out there. I think we are going to need to be vigilant. as a true crime community to just be careful of stuff like that. And again, I'm not saying the great Aunt Daphne thing is the hoax. Maybe there's something that I haven't seen, but this is just my feeling so far. I'm going to attempt to play this if I can get it to populate. I have my ad blocker on, so it may not want to play. There it goes. Okay.
That's a big statement to make it.
Okay. Can you guys hear him? Let me move myself over here. I'm going to play a few seconds and then I'll back it up so you can hear the whole thing. Can you guys hear him?
This early in the game.
It's been 24 days since.
So can you hear the audio okay? Yes or no? Just really quick. Yes or no? Can you hear the audio? This is about Lilly and Jack. Yes? Okay. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for modding today, and Jazz. Thank you for modding today, Leslie and Kathleen. All right. So people are telling me, yes, they can hear. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Ooh. Thank you, High Priestess Angelique. Yeah, we swapped over to a different live stream. So we're doing a missing children's case. That's okay. You're welcome to join us. We're glad you're here. Thank you, Brother Mike. He's our other head mod today. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to be watching this interview together, and then we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some new information regarding the stepfather, Daniel.
Flew when they said no abduction. That's a big statement to make at this early in the game.
It's been 24 days since Lilly and Jack Sullivan were reported missing from their home in Lansdowne Station. Family members have speculated the children were taken, but police have remained adamant they do not believe the siblings were abducted. According to Nova Scotia's recently updated policing standards, abduction is defined as when a person under 18 years of age or a vulnerable person is taken without the permission of their legal guardian.
And so I think that the law enforcement probably knows more about this than we do. They may have, we know they've recently started getting all the trail cameras. They got trail cams from one neighbor who has come forward. Her name is Melissa Scott, and she said that she was approached by 2 officers from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Major Crime Unit who wanted to know if she had any trail cameras, and she lives in the Glengarry Station, so just a little bit of ways from where Lilly and Jack lived with their mother and stepfather in Lansdowne Station. We also know from this same article that they approached other people also for trail cams. So I'm wondering if they're looking for one of 2 things. They're looking to see if the children were abducted or removed after something nefarious happened to them using ATV off-road type of vehicles. And they may also be looking because they upped their trail cam search back to April the 27th. They may also be looking for a proof of life. We know April 29th is the last day that the kids were at school and the last day that they were seen publicly at school by someone other than Daniel and Malehya. Hold on one second. I got a tickle. But law enforcement's been pretty adamant that it's not an abduction. So what do they think happened? Was it, as we have talked about on this case, that maybe that something nefarious did happen in the home or around the home. The parents, the mother and stepfather could have been possibly worried that their other child, Meadow, would be taken from them. Meadow's reportedly a 1-year-old toddler. Or did they just wander away?
Jim Hoskins is a retired HRP officer and former major crimes staff sergeant. Despite not working the Sullivan case himself or being privy to any information regarding RCMP's ongoing investigation, he can see only 2 remaining possibilities.
And you can see that this really wasn't, in my opinion, a child. The yard itself looks safe and fun to play in, but the debris around the house, I'm not shaming anybody. They're in the country, who cares? But where it does become important is the fact that there were, little ones. Jack was only 4, Lilly was only 6, and it does look like, maybe some potential safety hazards. And Meadow was only 1 year old. But let's continue on together.
What I see from the outside, there's only.
And this is where I talked about being able to see into the house and looking in the windows. You can see there are some things like just leaning up against the windows, and you can see in the door a little bit. And I know the stepfather works 1 day a week and they don't have a lot of money, and that's okay. But to me, that would give you more time to go and, maybe tidy things up a little bit, so that, because you do have 3 young children, 6 years old, 4 years old, and a 1-year-old that are, this is the main entrance to the home.
2 options here: criminal involvement, search. They haven't found them yet. They legitimately got lost in the woods. I felt, okay, let's give them a couple of days to see if these kids are just wandered off, because they're only 6 and 4. So are they lost? They'll find them, maybe. If not, let's see how far it goes. And I says, and if it goes beyond 2 or 3 days, uh-oh. That was my reaction. What's next? Uh-oh.
And a lot of you guys have had the same reaction, because, Jack was in a pull-up reportedly. So how far could a 4-year-old really get in that dense, thick brush and wooded areas that surround the house? How far could a 4-year-old and 6-year-old have possibly have gotten? And, why wouldn't the dogs have picked up some kind of a scent? And it seems like law enforcement is leaning that way also. And we're going to talk about the stepfather, Daniel, in just a second, but let's finish with
A
this.
feeling felt across the province that could be driving public obsession with this case.
Canada in 2024, there were just over 30,000 cases of missing children. The vast majority of those cases involve runaways, or they involve teens. And actually about 90% of those cases are resolved within a 1-week period. So anytime cases deviate from that, right, I think that is going to draw in the public. And of course, there's the public's desire to see it resolved.
Although Stevens cannot comment on individual cases, she says when children in particular go missing, this tends to be harder for the public to digest.
It taps into a lot of the fears that, for example, parents might hold about the safety of their children. But it's really important to remember that of those, for example, 30,000 cases, about 0.1% were cases of like a stranger or parental abduction.
So 0.1% is a stranger or parental abduction. And out of that, how many abducted 2 children? 0.1%, not 1%, 0.1. So 0.1% is a stranger abduction. So the idea that a stranger took 2 of them, and this is why I was talking about the statistics being so important in this case, in my opinion, the idea that a stranger would have taken both of Jack and Lilly doesn't, is a statistical anomaly. It's not impossible, but it's highly improbable that this would have happened. So in my opinion, somebody, if they were abducted, it would have been somebody that was known to Malehya and Daniel.
Despite rumors online of criminal motives and cover-ups, Lilly and Jack's stepfather, Daniel Martell, has refuted all claims of his involvement, offering to take a polygraph test. And Hoskins says there's still a chance the children are close by.
You can't write it off and say they're definitely not in the woods. I can still say you can get overlooked. You can overlook bodies.
Searchers were back.
And we know from the Kylie Rodney case that she was right there in the lake. And a dive team had to come in. YouTubers came in and found her.
Back in the woods near the home a week ago, but there have been no significant updates since. In all his years as a police officer, Hoskins says what strikes him most is the probability of something like this happening.
It's bizarre. If you ask me what was bizarre, I'd say in this case, 2 with this particular family. 2 are gone.
Ella MacDonald, Global News.
And that's what, a lot of you guys, are struggling with. Let me put Lilly and Jack back up here, because this is the whole purpose of doing this is to raise awareness for them. So let's talk about some updates on the father, Daniel. And I am working to bring you credible sources. I also want to go through what the mother, Malehya, actually said. Let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about Daniel after that. So let's go through exactly what she said. She claimed that she kept the children home from school because Lilly had a cough. And a lot of you guys rightly pointed out that if one child was sick and she had a baby at home, wouldn't it have been easier for just to send Jack still to school? Like, why was Jack kept home also? But some of you also pointed out that maybe he was only attending school 1 or 2 days a week, although she did not say this. So I guess my question on that is, was this Jack's normal routine? If Lilly didn't go to school in the past, did Jack also not attend? Or was this a deviation from what was normal? Because a deviation from what would normally happen if Lilly was sick and Jack normally went to school, that would be a red flag. If he didn't normally attend school without Lilly, then, I think we can say that this is not that important. So let's talk about what the mother said exactly. She said, quote, "I am staying as hopeful as possible. I want them home. I want to hold them. I want them home." What happened was we woke up, and this is where you guys have really struggled with some of her statements. "I heard them playing in the next room beside us. I was drifting in and out of sleep. They're not the type of kids," she pauses. "We tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure we're out there with them, watching them. And they happen to just get out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens." And a lot of you guys have pointed out that, with the condition of the house, that they, found it impossible to believe that maybe she didn't hear it. I don't know where their bedroom is located in reference to the sliding glass door, so I cannot say. She continues, this is Malehya speaking. She said, quote, "They were outside playing and we weren't aware of it at the time. And the next thing we knew, it was quiet." And this is where a lot of people have had a lot of red flags. They were outside playing and we weren't aware of it at the time. And so people are wondering, like, well, how did you know they were outside playing? And then she says, the next thing we knew, it was quiet. So she said, it sounds like they were aware of it and maybe just didn't get up to go to check on Lilly and Jack, that they knew they did hear them outside. This doesn't mean they did anything to Lilly and Jack, but it is concerning when you're seeing reputation building. Peter Hyatt would always tell us that if you see parents of a missing child, focus more on reputation building than on finding the child. He wouldn't say that they did something nefarious to the kids, just that it was a red flag. So let's just say that's a red flag. It doesn't mean they did anything. Let's continue. She said, "We get up and tell him, my partner Daniel, I tell him, 'Do you hear the kids?' And he says, 'No.' We get up instantly and we're looking outside. We're looking everywhere, yelling for them. And I instantly just called 911. I just had an instinct I needed to call." Now, Pat Brown, who's a criminal profiler, thought that was odd too. She didn't understand why she would need to have an instinct to just call. Of course, if your children are missing, you would call. And she thought that was a red flag for her. The mother continues, Malehya continues, "They're both really go lucky." And a red flag doesn't mean they did anything. Okay, guys, I just want to make that clear. They both are really go lucky children. They're so sweet. They talk to anyone. They talk your ear off. They will speak to anyone in a store, everyone. They're just extremely sweet kids. I think this is really good. She's talking positively about Jack and Lilly. She continues, quote, "I appreciate the huge search effort going on right now, but we have been pushing for an Amber Alert, which hasn't been issued. Not just that they could have possibly been abducted, which is a possibility that they could have been, but just an alert to let everyone know they are missing." I think this is a good sign too. We want to see a mother that's advocating and, demanding law enforcement do more. This is what parents of missing children who actually want them to be found do. They want more from law enforcement. So the fact that she's complaining and wanting more from law enforcement, I think is a good sign. She continues, quote, "We had people text me saying they weren't aware. Someone else let them know they were missing. And it would be nice if everyone could be alerted. We thought maybe we had 4 tracks, but it's still uncertain. We thought maybe we had found tracks, but it's still uncertain. It's been raining and they're probably soaking wet. But with the sun today, I'm hopeful they are feeling warm." And again, I think this is also a good sign because she's thinking about how they feel. It's not all about her and how she feels. She's thinking about how they're feeling. She's worried that they're wet, but she's finding some comfort in the fact that the sun is out today and hopefully they're feeling warm. She says, quote, "We are all filled with pain and sorrow because we just want them found. We want them home and everyone loves them." And she says they are definitely verbal. They do have possible autism, but it's not extreme autism. It's just they have issues with school and don't catch up with the other kids. She said, I just want to remain hopeful, but there's always in a mother's mind, you're always thinking the worst. Last night was one of the worst nights because I didn't have them in their beds and I don't want to go through another night without them. So I see a couple of red flags, but I also see some positive things in her statements. Let me know if you have a different feeling on it. So let's talk about stepfather Daniel. I do want to check in with chat really quick. It is an odd statement. I understand, but odd. I just want to urge caution. We don't know what happened yet, so I just don't want to. I just want to urge caution here that we don't know what happened in this case. Everybody's worried, and let me show a different photo of Jack and Lilly. Oop. Let me move myself here so you guys can see the kids. But I do want to check in with chat. What do you and we're going to talk about Daniel. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up. If you want me to continue to cover this case, I will. Just please consider giving this a thumbs up, and also subscribing. That lets YouTube know that I'm giving you guys credible information, that I'm giving you guys good information, but it also lets me know as a content creator that you would like me to continue to cover this case. And I do want to say that, so I do think the mother statement, I can see where you guys have some concerns, but I also see some good things in her statements too. She's not just thinking of herself. She's worried that they're cold. She's thinking about how they would feel that day. I think that's a good thing. She's talking positively about them. I think that's a good thing also. So, and then the other thing that I think is a good sign is the fact that she did leave Daniel. Now maybe it's possible that she could be doing this to point the finger at Daniel, and Daniel, but it could also be that she really thinks that he had something to do with this and that she is genuinely concerned for Meadow. We've also heard reports that she was told to leave the house because of the condition of the house on the inside. They didn't think it was safe for Meadow, and that CPS gave her the option to either leave with Meadow or, and that's the name of the 1-year-old, or they would take Meadow into care, which is foster care. I do want to say thank you to our producers, Njaz, Sasha Angel, George Brown, Pepper, and Christy Valentine. And thank you to our channel members. We're not done. I just wanted to do this thank you before we get too far into this. We just are just getting started here. But I do think it's important just to say thank you to everybody who's supporting this channel that's allowing me to cover some of these more niche true crime cases. And I do think that it's really important that we do find out what happened to Jack and Lilly. And I think that by covering this case, we do put pressure on the law enforcement to not just say, well, we're done searching, we didn't find them, oh, well, it's over. And I think that the social media pressure, has been a lot. I think that the fact that you guys are watching these, and the fact that people are creating videos about this case and getting in Facebook groups, and everybody's discussing what happened to Jack and Lilly, because this is such an anomaly. To just a stranger abduction is 0.1% of 1%. A stranger abducting 2 children is nearly unprecedented, which is why so many people are concerned. I do want to also give super thanks and coffee gratitude from our last live stream. Thank you so much. And also thank you for gifted channel memberships. Okay, so let's continue on. And this is Jack and Lilly up on the screen. So I want to talk a little bit about Daniel. He stated that he believed that Lilly and Jack opened the home's back door. Now, this was supposedly silent. A lot of you guys don't feel like this could be silent. That just given the condition of the house, and given that, for people who have these sliding glass doors, how they normally sound, that they just don't see how they couldn't have heard them. I do think, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that they did hear Jack and Lilly in the backyard. I think Jack and Lilly probably played happily in this backyard lots of times, and you can see it's fenced. They have a little slide here. It looks like there's a chicken coop. I think they would have gone out there. It's a fenced yard, and you can see the debris is outside of the yard for the most part. The yard itself, looks to be pretty good. And I think Jack and Lilly would have had a blast, in my opinion, playing in this backyard. So I'm not clear on why they felt the need to say that, sort of present themselves as a helicopter parent. Maybe they were worried they would be attacked. But Daniel said that he searched for the siblings outside, that he was yelling for them. And around 10 a.m., Malehya called 911 to report them missing. So Lilly was last seen wearing a pink sweater, pink pants, and pink boots. Jack was wearing, and this is very concerning, a pull-up and blue dinosaur boots. And a lot of people have wondered if Jack was in a pull-up and the parents were still in bed and didn't report them missing till 10 a.m. So if they got up at 9:30, somewhere in there, who changed Jack's pull-up that morning? Had he been changed? Who was feeding the baby? Like, why were they still in bed? Had they, we don't know. Had they gotten up and taken care of Jack and Lilly and the baby? Because what I feel may have happened is that they were still in bed and that no one was tending to Jack and Lilly. Some people feel like Jack and Lilly, because Lily's backpack disappeared with her, that maybe they got themselves their boots on and headed out to the end of the driveway to catch the bus to go to school. And that maybe they were just trying to get themselves to school that morning, and this was an opportunistic crime. It's not impossible, but it is highly unlikely. Again, 0.1% for a child to be abducted, and less than that for both children to have been abducted. The other thing that a lot of people have talked about that they feel upset about is that Malehya is reportedly with her parents. She hasn't been out there actively searching that we know of. Now, she says law enforcement told her not to, but she also took time, and this bothered a lot of people, to update her Facebook profile to single. But a lot of people wondered why she did that. I think she's mad at Daniel. That's my opinion. Some people feel like she's just trying to point fingers at Daniel to take the pressure off of herself. But they felt like, she had time to take down all of Daniel's pictures from her Facebook. She had time to update her Facebook profile. So a lot of people are wondering, why isn't she making time to go out and search for Jack and Lilly? But maybe she was told by law enforcement not to. I'm urging caution here. We don't know what law enforcement has told her. They may have told her not to go out and search. And we also found out from Daniel that he also was questioned. So on May 6th, law enforcement questioned the stepfather, Daniel. The police took stepfather Daniel to the Pictou County District Royal Canadian Mounted Police Detachment in the town of Stellarton. And there he was reportedly questioned for around 4 hours. Now, Daniel claims he was asked to go over details and timeline to the minute. And he was asked to draw maps on where he thinks Lilly and Jack could be. So in my opinion, they were trying to find out where they think that they could be to help try to find Jack and Lilly, but maybe I think also to lock him in on a story so that if they find Jack and Lilly under nefarious circumstances, which is why I think they're picking up all this trail camera footage, that they have him locked in on a story. This doesn't mean he did it, so I'm just urging caution. This is the reason I think that they are asking him to go over the details, why they're telling him they want the timeline minute by minute, and why they want him to personally draw maps of where he thinks that Lilly and Jack could be. This would be a way to lock Daniel into a story. He said, quote, "They're easy on me because they know I'm telling the truth about everything." This is what Daniel said. My feeling about that is they're being easy on him because they want to lock him into a story. Doesn't mean they think that he did it. It just means that everybody's a suspect right now, in my opinion. If you have a different one, let me know. Let's do a poll. If you think that they're being easy on Daniel because they don't think he had anything to do with it, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that they were being easy on Daniel while getting him to give them a minute by minute detail and timeline of what happened and get him to draw maps of where Lilly and Jack could be in order to lock him into a story in case something nefarious did happen to Jack and Lilly, put a 2 in the chat. What do you think law enforcement's motivations are? Let's see where you guys are at on this. Is it rumored that remains have been located? Not to my knowledge. Let me just check and see if there's been any breaking news. I don't think so. I checked right before I went live, but let's just look. And I just don't want to have rumors. It's really important to try to tamp down that. No. I'll show you the only article that I can see. Let me just pull it up on this. But I want to do the poll. Let me see. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, there's nothing about remains, guys. Okay, so let's not go there. Okay, so if you guys think that they're trying to lock them into a story, put a 2 in the chat. Let's see what we got here. Thank you so much to Brother Mike and Jazz, our head mods. Thank you to all of our mods. Shady says the fact that dogs lock scent in a road makes me think they never roamed that away. Were transported by a vehicle, not sure alive or past. Yeah, a lot of people feel like you do, and I think law enforcement also believes this, which is why they're collecting all the trail cam. I think the trail cam is for 2 reasons. One, if they did use an off-road vehicle to remove Lilly and Jack, but 2, I think they also want proof of life, if they can get proof of life of the little ones. And also, did they wander away? So no remains have been located, Brenda. Not true. So just want to, and I'm not directing this at you in any unkind way. I just want to answer your question. So 2, Brother Mike says 2, Chris Ann says 2, Susan says 2, 17 says 2, Mannix says 2, Michelle says 2, Sandra 2, Becca says 2, Christy says 2. So Michelle, Florence, Kathleen, and Jazz, Marilyn, Sam, Hillary, if you're watching, come on up and talk to me. I want to hear your input, and I'm happy to take questions. Lots of 2s. I don't see any 1s. Thank you so much for modding today, Leslie and Sirius. Really appreciate you guys. Janine and Diane think it's a 2. Wow, a lot of 2s. Shady says, I think the Woods Lost story was for cover for something completely different occurring. And Christy said, I believe they did find an adult male. Oh, okay. So not Lilly and Jack. Okay. So that clarifies that. Good. Nobody wants, I'm still hoping they can be found. Yeah, it was a man. Thank you so much for that, Susan. I couldn't find any, so nothing about Lilly and Jack. Thank you, Manic. Lauren said, I saw the video where they said the remains, but it wasn't true. Yeah, please. Please be careful of, you want to have credibly sourced information. In my opinion, they were out. They got into something. It sounds like fell asleep, left the stuff out. The parents did, and the kids got into it. They woke up and found the kids. Thank you so much for giving this a thumbs up, letting YouTube know I'm handling this content responsibly. What about the kids being in school for the whole week? So the kids were in school through the 29th. This is the last time a person outside of Daniel and Malehya saw Lilly and Jack. And let me put Lilly and Jack back up on the screen. So this is the last time that somebody outside the family saw Lilly and Jack. And the kids were supposedly, Lilly had a cough. And Jack was kept home also. So on May 6th, the chief of the First Nation. It's Sipiknik. If anybody can help me with the pronunciation, I'm just trying to do my best here. I hope I have that correct. I want to be responsible and respectful. Michelle Glasgow addressed the speculations around the case, and she asked people to refrain from jumping to conclusions or sharing unverified information, as this can complicate the efforts of the multiple agencies involved in the ongoing investigation. So she's characterizing it as an investigation rather than a search, and I think that is where we are right now. She shared that the children's maternal grandfather is a member of this First Nation community. So I do think that that's where we are. We are in, we are in a situation where we do need to, be careful. We need to tamp down on the hoaxers a little bit. And I'm not, and believe me, I'm not saying that the YouTubers that reported this out are hoaxers at all, because I think that they honestly were just reporting out a Facebook post that looked, legitimate. And maybe it is. I just couldn't find anything that this really was a great aunt that was actually related to them. I couldn't find any proof that other than she had the same last name as Lilly and Jack, I couldn't find any other proof that she is related to the family. And I'm not saying she's the hoaxer. And I also couldn't find the link to where that comment was made. I saw the screenshot of the comment, but couldn't find like an honest to goodness link of like where the comment was made and where she stated this. So I would just like, not saying it's true, not saying it's not true, just saying let's just put a pin in that and, put our critical, we'll be just be critical thinkers a little bit and just wait till we get some more confirmation. But if it is a family member, I apologize. So I think it's statistically unlikely that both children would have wandered off. As I shared with you, 0.1% that it would have been an abduction. 90% of the kids are recovered that go missing, mostly they're teenagers, are recovered within a week. So for them to be gone for this many weeks, and both of them to have disappeared from their yard, which to me does look like a safe, fun place to play. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just think it's so unlikely that a predator would take two children, not just one. I think if they had just wandered off, I think dogs would have picked up on their scent in the woods. I just don't see how they would have gotten that far. But we have seen in the Kylie Rodney case where she went into the lake in Truckee, California, and it took the law enforcement did search the lake. They couldn't find her, and it took YouTubers coming out that did diving like this, and they were able to find her. But it did take weeks to find her. So I think that if Lilly and Jack had just wandered off, they wouldn't have been able to get very far in that thick, dense brush. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the case, let me just show you a little bit of let me move myself. I just want to show you what the whereabouts of the house look like. I mean, you can see how dense and thick the brush is. And then if you look and see, at the search, some of the video of the searchers, you could see, and let's look at this map together. Let me take this down, put this in. Okay. So you can see this is Stellarton. This is where the police are coming from. And I was hoping it would have like more of an interactive map. We could just see the map of the area. That's not very helpful. Hold on. I want to get a map. And I do wonder if they called off the search initially for Jack and Lilly. I'm just looking for images of the actual searchers.
Good evening. We begin tonight in Nova Scotia, where there is a renewed search for two.
Okay, let me see. This looks like it's ready to play. Let me make this big and move myself out of the way.
young siblings who vanished without a trace more than 2 weeks ago. Today, teams were back near their rural home searching for the children. Here's a timeline of this case so far. 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan were reported missing from their home in Pictou County Friday, May 2nd. Nova Scotia RCMP launched a search with more than 100 people involved on the ground and in the air. On day 6, the RCMP announced the search for the missing kids was being scaled back. While most crews left the area, dive teams scoured local bodies of water but found no evidence.
And the reason the water is so significant is people who are autistic, children particularly, are attracted to water.
On day 12, police issued a release saying they were following up on more than 180 tips and identified 35 people for formal interviews. And on Friday, RCMP announced the search would resume this weekend. More than 100 volunteer searchers are back in the sparsely populated area, 140 kilometers northeast of Halifax. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth is there.
The RCMP won't say what prompted the resumption of search efforts for Lilly and Jack Sullivan. But when
Look how cute they are. They're just the cutest little kids. They really are cute. There's Lilly.
And Jack Sullivan.
And there's Jack.
But when Daniel Martell heard the news, he felt a wave of renewed optimism.
What I want you guys to look at is how thick that brush is in and around the house, just how thick it and dense it is, and how difficult it would be for a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old to get very far in that brush.
That his stepchildren might finally be found.
It fills me with a lot of hope, seeing drones in the sky and seeing people back hard at work.
The initial search for the missing kids was called off after only 6 days. Now,
look how thick it is. This is what I wanted to really show you. How far could Lilly and Jack really have gotten in this? Look at what they're having to search through, you guys.
5 search and rescue teams from across Nova Scotia are once.
There's no way a 4- and 6-year-old are going to get that far in this dense of brush, which is what surrounds the house.
Again on the ground, scouring this treacherous terrain.
The woods here are pretty nasty. There's a lot of storm damage, so there's a lot of deadfall on that. The ticks are really bad. We've had people come out.
So deadfall means that there's like dead leaves and branches. So it's even more with little tiny legs for a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old to try to get through. I just don't see how they would have gotten very far. It doesn't mean it's not possible. I just don't see how they would have gotten that far on their own.
Say they could see them crawling around on the ground.
Search teams are relying on scientific models in their pursuit. There are stats and studies that show how far.
This is what worries me. Just knowing that kids with autism are attracted to water. Children can drown in as little as just a few inches of water. This is very shallow, but you know, if these children are slightly autistic, as the mother said, would they have been attracted to this water? And did they try to wade in or cross it?
Our children could possibly travel in areas like this. Search and rescue manager Amy Hansen says rescue workers.
And I think the train tracks, in my opinion, make it easier for a vehicle that is not related to have come into the area for an abduction or taken Lilly and Jack away. This would make it an easy way to travel, but you can see how thick the brush is. That's what I really wanted to show you on this. Just that I just don't see how Lilly and Jack could have possibly just wandered away into the brush and gotten very far. Does this mean that, you know, rescuers couldn't have missed them? I think it's possible that they could have missed them. It's unlikely, but possible.
Hansen says rescue workers are focused and re-energized.
One of the reasons that we did actually suspend was because of the exhaustion and the stress. And we were starting to see more injuries. Everybody's rested, refreshed, ready to go. They're still going to push themselves to the point where they can't anymore.
And I just want to say, I think the pressure that you guys have helped create on finding Lilly and Jack has really, you know, inspired people to get out there and search and want to find out what happened to them too. Is this case is garnering international attention with people wanting to know what happened to this little preschooler 4-year-old and this little first grader 6-year-old, and people are wanting to know, you know, what happened to these two little ones. Where are they? and they want to have a resolution. So I think that you guys and your attention on this and your focus on this has really helped to inspire law enforcement to want to keep going to find them, because they must be exhausted. I can't even imagine how hard it would be to go in, day out into that type of brush to try to find Lilly and Jack. I could also see where search dogs would have trouble searching for them also, in that densely wooded area.
100 rescue workers are combing through several square kilometers of dense forest, marking off each area.
Look how grueling that is, you guys. How hard that would be to get in there with dogs to actually do a search.
Searched with a ribbon.
We're also expanding out into areas that we haven't really had boots on the ground in, just to get more areas covered off.
Martell says the last 2 weeks have been a nightmare for his family and the entire community.
This is absolutely heartbreaking, man. Heartbreaking, not just for me and Malehya and the families, but it's heartbreaking for all Pictou County.
He's hoping for a miracle, praying 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan will be found. Paul.
So, a lot of people are, have red flags regarding Daniel because we've heard things. But I'm just urging caution. I do think law enforcement did try to lock him into a story. And I, just want to go back to, my thoughts on this, which is that statistically, I think it would be, I think it's possible that the children would have wandered off. Looking at the brush in and around the area, I think it's possible that search dogs could have missed them, because I just don't see how search dogs would go into that brush. I think it would have been really grueling. I think it was really grueling. We just heard them talking about how hard it was on them, how they were just absolutely exhausted from searching. But I also think that the trail cams will be helpful for law enforcement too. And I think what they're trying to do is a couple of things. One, rule in or out that somebody did come in or leave that property with Lilly and Jack on an off-road vehicle. And two, they want a proof of life that they were out in maybe something on April 30th or May 1st. Where were they? But I think that if they had wandered off, I would think the dogs would have picked it up. But then looking at how dense it is, I think we have to just consider the possibility that maybe the dogs wouldn't have picked up a scent. It's possible. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm just saying it's possible. Jack was only in pull-ups. Lilly was only 6 years old. So if they didn't wander off, then the next most likely thing to me would that it would be somebody, either it was an accident. And remember, Peter Hyatt has always taught us that the easiest way for harm to befall a child or to bring harm to a child is for the parents to simply be neglectful. The fact that they were still in bed at that hour, a lot of people have, been concerned about this. And the fact that, the kids were out playing unattended. But it could also be that it's somebody in the circle of parents, was there medication involved? Was there anything nefarious going on? And was there someone in their circle, somebody unsavory that is in the area? Because I do think that the fact that both of them went missing, to me, makes it more than likely that somebody would have fixated on both Lilly and Jack. And again, was there somebody in their periphery? And we do know that law enforcement has been conducting interviews with 35 people to find out more. And Occam's razor tells us that this is a problem-solving principle that suggests that sometimes the simplest explanation from competing hypotheses, especially when making the same predictions, is the truth. So to me, the simplest explanation, in my opinion, is simply that there was neglect. There was neglect. Linda said Jack's legs would have been scratched up with no pants. Yeah, a lot of red flags. Susan says, please give the like button. 2 great talks today by Reporter Room. Thank you so much, Susan. That's really kind of you. Please like and share this video and help spread awareness for Lilly and Jack. Thank you so much for caring for them. Hillary says, I think they separated them on purpose as their stories don't match up. You're talking about the law enforcement. You think they sent her to her family's house and separated him. Now they've locked him in on a story, according to what he's told us, right? So I'm assuming they did the same thing with Malehya, that they would have gone and they would have asked for just as detailed of an account from her, that they would have wanted to know the exact timeline, minute by minute, from Malehya, just like what they asked Jack. I don't have any proof of this. Malehya has been told she's not supposed to speak to the press, and she's not. But I think they would have also gotten her to draw some maps on where she thought Lilly and Jack could be. And they would have asked her to repeat the timelines and the details if if she's cooperating with law enforcement. A lot of people have wondered, why the mom isn't out searching. My understanding is that she was told not to search. The unknown says, actually, that's what I was thinking. The mother accidentally did something, and then Daniel was disposing to protect. The only thing about to protect her is, I think, because she has left the property and has pointed the finger squarely at Daniel, and that she thinks, it seems like she thinks she's either A, trying to distract attention from her own behavior, or B, she really does think that Daniel's involved somehow. Sandra says it would be hard for them to walk a booth. That's why I want to show you guys the brush. I think the brush is really thick. That's why I want to show you guys how thick it was and why I think it would have been so hard. Let me back this up. For them to go in to the brush and just, search it. It just looks like it's so grueling. Look at how thick it is. You can see it between the tents there. It's damp, it's rainy, it's cold, and the brush is really, really thick. And that's why I wanted to show you what they were having to deal with, and why I do think it's possible that they missed them. Look at what's around the house. And I don't know where you could have gotten search dogs into every single place. Hillary said the stories also changed, though, and Jack was then wearing brown trousers and a top. I haven't heard that. And I came into the case, and maybe I came into the case later than you. I've always been told that he was in boots and a pull-up, but don't know if he was in brown trousers or a top or not. Could be. Kathleen does not think they walked away. Well, I think that's why law enforcement is picking up the trail cams. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, let me share this. For those of you that do, just bear with me for a minute. I do want to just go make sure everybody has all the information. So they picked up trail cams, not just from Melissa Scott. So she said she was visited on May 20th by 2 law enforcement officers from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Major Crime Unit. So the Major Crime Unit, I think that's significant. Okay. This isn't a search and rescue unit. This is a major crime unit that came calling. They wanted to see if she had any trail cameras set up on her 16-acre property in Glengarry Station, near where Lilly and Jack lived. And let me just show you where she lives. There is Glengarry Station. And here on Landon is where Lilly and Jack disappeared, Landon Station. So I think it's significant that a major crime unit came in, and that does make me wonder if they've switched now from search and rescue into an investigation, or if they have parallel going. They're continuing the search and rescue, and they're going ahead and locking the parents into statements of what happened that morning to get stories locked in. But she told police that she had 7 trail cameras on her property. 1 points down her driveway to keep track of who comes and goes. Another is positioned near the home, and the rest are scattered throughout the woods to monitor wildlife that the family hunts on their property. She said it takes about an hour to walk the coverage area of the 7 cameras. She said that she did mention to investigators that she was happy to see them and glad they were canvassing a little further and looking at trail cam footage. And I think we do have to consider the possibility with seeing, this is where I believe this is the train, the blue dots that you see right here. That's the train tracks. I think we have to consider the possibility that somebody could have come in with an off-road vehicle, traveled that train tracks, and they could have gotten pretty far. She said that she gave them a USB drive to load her trail cam footage onto. She said she was initially asked to give them her footage from May 1st to May 3rd. But later they expanded their request to include April 27th to May 3rd. So the fact that they backed it up a couple of days from when the kids were last seen at school tells me that they're wondering if, maybe something nefarious was going on. There's some kind of clue, and they've used the word clues, right? A couple of times. She said she handed over her footage on Thursday afternoon. And they found, CBC spoke to another neighbor, and this is from Melissa. She said 2 other people responded that they had also been approached for camera footage because she was asking about it in her Facebook group. She has a private Facebook group, and she was asking neighbors if they too had been approached by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and that 2 other people that in that group said they had also been approached for footage. And then we know from the CBC News, I don't know if this is a 4th person or one of these other 3, that they spoke to one neighbor who did not want to be named, but confirmed they were asked by investigators for trail cam or security footage. And she said that she asked asked to confirm information about her family's vehicles in order to rule out local traffic to the footage. I think they may be trying to rule out local traffic, but I think it's also, possible that they're trying to see also who does have these type of vehicles, who could have come. They're looking, they're expanding their search. They're trying to figure out who, if these children were abducted, who did it and how did they do it? So I do think the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have refused to speak out about this. We haven't gotten any updates from them today. I was hoping we would get an update today. On May 5th, as the helicopters buzzed overhead, Melissa was checking her trail cameras, but she said she didn't notice anything out of the ordinary on May 5th. She said that she has a 9-year-old daughter, a 10-year-old daughter, and a 9-year-old son. But I think the most significant thing, besides the trail cam footage, that jumps out to me in this is the fact that the major crime unit was the ones that came calling. It wasn't searchers. It wasn't search and rescue unit. It was a major crime unit. So that to me is very significant. It doesn't mean anybody did anything. I don't want to, point fingers. I'm just saying that it is significant. Let me see where you guys are at with this. I want to thank NJAS for gifting a reporter room membership. Thank you so much. And I want to thank Maniac for the $3 super sticker. I will be putting that toward editing equipment. So thank you so much. That is very, very kind of you. I'm sorry, not Maniac, Manic Siren. Sorry. I apologize for that. A Beautiful Mess says the TPs are cool. And Leslie is welcoming you, Michelle. Glad you are here with us today. Okay. So I think that's all of the latest news. I feel like we've gone through everything that we know so far. Be on the lookout for hoaxing. There are people that do try to insert themselves into cases. I'm not saying that happened in this case, but I do think there are people out there that will try to insert themselves into cases in an effort to get attention for themselves. So be on the lookout for that. Be vigilant. Ask questions when you see something posted. Let's find out try to find out where it came from. None of us are perfect. We're all just doing the best that we can to report out credibly sourced information. But let's all try to work together as a true crime community and be vigilant about that and make sure that you guys do get credible information. I will continue to cover this case. If you want me to, please let me know if you would like me to continue to cover this case. I do think it's important. I just the statistics on this just really bother me, you guys. Just the fact that major crime unit, and I do think they were trying to lock Daniel into a story, and I would really like to know if they also locked Malehya into a story around the same time. I suspect they did. They may not have had her come down to the station, but I'm confident they would have wanted to sit down with her to try to find out. And it does seem like both Daniel and Malehya are cooperating. So I think that's a good sign also. So if you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. It's free and it does help me out. And it lets me know that you want me to continue covering this case, but it also lets the YouTube algorithm know that I'm providing you guys with credible, fact-based information. And that's really important. So thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. I'm grateful for all of you guys caring about Jack and Lilly. And I look forward to seeing you on the next live stream. I'm going to do another one this Friday. See you next time. Bye.